Hey there and welcome back. Today's video is a little impromptu, and just kind of a little catch up on things. Um, I had so many grand plans for Mental Health Awareness Month. I was going to do so much this month to try to continue the spread. My whole goal is to try to help give information and decrease stigma. But I'll admit the plans were a bit overzealous, especially for me. And I had a little bit of a mental breakdown not too long after the month started. Luckily, it was short lived, and I feel like I'm rebounding from it. So yeah, the past couple days have been rough. Haven't really been doing much. But that is the reality of living with mental illness, which is kind of what this channel is all about. So I decided I'm scrapping the original plans I had for Mental Health Awareness Month and sticking with what I know. The May is also Borderline Personality Awareness Month, and it's so funny because I've talked on this channel before about how I've been constantly told that I have borderline personality traits, but that I don't fit the criteria for a diagnosis. Now, with that, I was diagnosed previously when I was in grad school, and then they removed the diagnosis because they said there was a lot of stigma attached to it, and so they thought they were doing me a favor by removing it, and then they changed it to just a personality disorder, unspecified. And when I left that practice because I aged out of my father's insurance policy, I moved halfway across the country and had to find a therapist on my own. And every therapist after that said, no, you don't fit it, you don't match it. But these therapists, what I'm realizing, they never asked questions. They never dug deeper into why I thought I fit the criteria or why I identified with it. I had learned by that point to be very cautious with what I said to mental health professionals. And I'd learned not to trust them. And I had learned that if I showed all of my symptoms, that it might be too much, because I had been what I felt was passed off from a previous therapist onto somebody else because that person couldn't deal with my symptoms. And so this was just my reality for years. This has been like the past 14 years. Now recently I've been seeing a new psychologist to try to figure out what's going on with some specific symptoms. And he's a specialist to try to help me with some of the things that are going on. Those are things that I'm not going to disclose just because I don't consider it safe to do so. But what we did have was an in-depth conversation about the borderline personality disorder. And he had previously, when I had mentioned that I'd been diagnosed previously with it, he had said that he didn't see it. And for me, it was kind of like, oh, great, another therapist telling me I don't have it. This guy's a specialist. So, maybe they're right, and it's the borderline personality traits. I don't have the disorder. I don't really know what that means for me. Um, Now here's where people start to lose me, I think, and it's always like, why do you want to have the disorder? And here's my responses: I don't want to have borderline personality disorder. I don't think anybody looks at this disorder and says, oh yeah, that's what I want. It's not fun. It sucks. It's really just, it's exhausting to live with and highly stigmatized. Um, and it's not a pleasant reality. So I didn't want it. What I felt was that I did have it, and that by no one recognizing that I had it, my symptoms were not getting resolved. So I felt like I was just swimming in circles because my therapists didn't believe me and wouldn't look any deeper. And so all of these problems that I had, I felt like I was constantly just going through crisis counseling and just solving one crisis at a time and never learning the skills I needed in order to stop having these crises. Like, I want to be able to live my life and not be jumping from one huge situation to another. I want more even keel days. I don't want these days full of emotions jumping up and down and idealizing and devaluing people. Like, even if I can sit here and say I know that that's what I do, when I'm in the midst of that, it's not like that means I know how not to do it. And because these things didn't get addressed and they didn't get explored more deeply, I never I never was given any tools to try to figure it out. I had one therapist kind of give me the maladaptive thinking list, and she was like, "Oh, well, you basically have all of these." And I'm like, "Okay, so how do I fix that?" Um so that's kind of where I've been coming from, is just I know that something is wrong. And I know it doesn't look like it to the outside world because I mask it really well. But on the outside, while I'm maintaining a job and I have a family, and inside I'm falling apart, everything is chaotic. I can't keep my house together because by the time I'm done pretending I have it together, I come home and I fall apart because I'm exhausted. And only the people who are closest to me see that. Um, and we went through all of that. And at the end, he said to me, would it be helpful for you to have that diagnosis? And I said, only if it's accurate. Like, I don't want to just be given the diagnosis. I don't want to be placated or just appeased. Like if that's not what it is, that's not what it is. But I'd like to know what is going on. So after talking and going through everything, and he verified, he said, you do look like you could meet the criteria for this. And so I can now say, like, yeah, I have borderline personality disorder. And all of this time, I did actually know a little bit more about myself than I thought. And there isn't something inherently wrong with me. There's something that is an illness and that can be treated. And there are tools that I can be given to maybe start to live my life a little better. And it's a relief. It's like this huge weight lifted off my shoulders because, on top of everything, I felt like such an imposter because there was this thing that fully summed up my experiences, but professionals kept telling me I didn't fit it. And so I felt like an imposter. And I was like, am I faking all of this? Am I doing something? Like, am I doing it for attention? Which, I doesn't really make sense because I don't feel like I put it out there really. But it's a relief. And so that's why I think it's so important for people to continue to share their experiences and continue to educate themselves and others about mental health conditions, because, maybe then I would have felt this relief 10 years ago and I'd be in a much better place now. But I'm not going to look on that in that way. And I'm just going to look at it like, starting from today, I have a new chapter, and I'm really excited about what that chapter is going to hold. And I'm thinking that the future is going to hold a lot of healing, and I'll continue to share my story as I go through it. Thanks for listening.